Oh, yeah, they're doing, I think. Yeah, I think it's on. Anyway, yeah, it worked out okay yesterday, so I'll do it again. A little better weather. So Matt Siegel, thou art that, made some video of a presentation he gave at his college, I guess. Yeah, I guess it's a college, mostly. And well, whatever. I still watch this stuff because, yeah, it's the history and all that stuff with Matt. And Professor Anton sort of related to it, because they sort of tend to interact with each other. So anyway, I did notice Professor Anton left a comment like, "Great stuff," and then he basically tore it to shreds, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it just did seem like, so more vacuous than in the past. This concession to cold hard facts, in the sense that he describes these events of Darwin and Freud, and and then presents as the alternative, I don't know, Sally Silly dress. I mean, just mush, girly mush. I wish it wasn't true. That's about it. So anyway, I want to just mockingly critique, but it was so mockable in a way, because he was almost like he was arguing, that we don't want to be too dismissive of the materialists, or the whatever, the non-psychophysicists or whatever, and I'd be dismissive on what grounds? On what grounds are you going to dismiss the implications of biological, neurological evolution? I don't think you're going to do that. So, I mean, I could pick out almost everything he said and just say that's not the way the world works. So there was one point where he was talking about, talking about nihilist in a way, or talking about this idea of people who say, value is something contained in our brain, and as if the actual value was in our brain. That's not what people are arguing. People are arguing that we have, through neurology, a capacity to, observe the world, and through the illusions that are created inside of our neurology, and that we are able to see value. We're able to see context. We're able to see this water and relate it to not only where it came from, the rain, but relate it to the ocean that it might end up in. And so we can see the relationship things have to other things, and one of those relationships, fits in this idea of a concept of a good and a bad, a positive happening and a negative happening. That idea of having a weight in terms of its impacts on what might be considered these vulnerable sensate organisms. So, this sort of relates. I also saw part of a TED Talks. I only watched part of it because it was a little bit sappy. Some woman doctor talking about, she's done some work with veterinarians at the zoo, and how she found it a learning experience, and edified her on the animal nature of the human organism, and I seemed to give her a better relationship to her practice of medicine, in the sense of understanding the human as an animal, an organism, and that there's a great commonality among mammals in terms of their conditions and the diseases they are vulnerable to. What's all that about? Jesus. Anyway, all that noise. Anyway, somebody's having a catastrophe of some kind, I imagine. So anyway, yeah, anyway. So, I mean, from my perspective, as I'm attempting to make the argument from, it's certainly not a nihilist perspective, and I'd say almost that Matt's perspective is more nihilistic. And so there's a point where he made the point that he would rather argue with the nihilists, because I guess he sees a greater dichotomy between his point of view and theirs. And but in a way, it's I'd say there's more of a similarity. I'm not doing that just to play the same old game where people just accuse each other of being religious or something. But because it's a denialism, and I just can't, I can't see it as anything other than that. Matt's too smart not to see the fact that he's making it up, that he's investing in a philosophy that he thinks is healthier, not one that he thinks is righter, and that he's, in a sense, been nihilistic in his giving up on the idea that the truth matters. He perceives, I think, that the truth points in a very unpleasant direction, and that it leaves no option for something to celebrate. And I guess he doesn't think it's consequential, the idea of the human race gracefully conceding to its dilemma, and the human race not gracefully conceding. And he doesn't like the choice of concession anyway. He doesn't want to give up on the idea of the going somewhere, getting somewhere, doing it all for something. And he just won't he refuses, I suppose is the right word, to let go of that comforting delusion, and he will, let the blood out of the truth. He will sacrifice the truth, ritualistically almost, for this cause of placating his desire that there be more to life than putting your hours in a mindless idiocracy. And it would be an idiocracy no matter how you shape it. I mean, yes, we've done it more idiotic than it needs to be, but no matter how you do it, it's going to be idiotic, because it's conceptually idiotic. The unneeded need, the creation of it, gives you nowhere to go. Creating problems for which you can only partially resolve is intrinsically idiotic. You just can't escape that truth. And that's the nature of this psychology built by evolution. Not intrinsic to function. It doesn't go all the way back to the atom. Neural consciousness has no similarity to the sun's burning. A hydrogen bomb. There's no connection between these things. The illusion that takes place in our brains is a very complexly created, structured thing. That's why there's so many neurons, is because it takes that many. It takes a whole lot of them to create the stage and the theater and the lights and the orchestra and the seats and the carpeting and the flashlights. It just takes a lot of brain to create the delusion, the illusion of being. And it's not something atoms are doing and molecules are doing and microbes are doing. That's just made up. There's no evidence of it, and it's not coherent to the evidence that exists. the evidence that exists points to the fact that neurons are different. Yeah, they create something different, and that's why we're different. But different doesn't make it right. Different doesn't make it more needed, more justified in existing. It just means that it's different. And I guess I would argue that, as I don't see the default state of consciousness to be necessarily a positive thing, that this is all a benefit. It's a liability. It's a weight to be carried through your conscious existence. Your consciousness is a burden. It's not a privilege. And I think if you live at all seriously, it is. Unless you are in the bliss of some ignorance, it must weigh heavy on you. Not only the responsibility of how you affect the world, the power that's in your potential realm of grasping, but the burdens of watching the spectacle, the horror transpire among the sentients. They de-leaf the giant field that no one ever walks on. It really is quite hilarious. Yes, remove the leaves from the grass field. It's never used. Rich people. Anyway. But that's all. That's the only economy that exists now. It's the preposterously wealthy hiring the horribly underpaid, to do silly work, stylish work. Yeah, keep my empty field clean of grass and weeds and leaves. So anyway, so that's another theme that Matt hides behind, is this holistic, yes, we're anti-capitalist, living in their privileged, whatever the right word for that is, they're a little away island of, privilege, talking their little talky talk. It's just so funny. And as if they would want to go back to some cruder world. No. And as if they have some cure for the real competitive nature of the human organism. No. They haven't even come up with a pill. There's no, everybody can get stoned all they want, but they're not going to be cured of competitiveness. These gigantic tires on that bicycle. Shit. Must be real work. Anyway. It's a good path for big tires, but just it's a lot of weight to be pedaling. Anyway, so what's the point? Oh yeah, so I really wanted to talk some about evolution, and it just didn't really happen. But I think if Matt's honest and you take evolution seriously, it's all there. The insufficiency of our creation is demonstrated in the process. The lack of wisdom built into the process. It's not generous and kind and compassionate. Its balance is not anything decent. It's an indecent balance of carnage. But that's how, they all kind of just paint over the struggle with this little, circular life, death. Oh, it's a wonderful little, circle jerkle. This is not. It's a horrible. Birth is miserable, and dying is miserable. This isn't some wonderful thing to keep doing over and over again. Fuck. It's a evil redundancy. And a horrible burden. To have to, learn how to breathe. Just to figure out that you're, breathing in the death of the biosphere, the harm and torture and suffering of, billions of creatures. And just, it's nothing to talk glowingly about. Like, oh, isn't it just wonderful that the universe can keep doing that for millions or billions of years? But there will be no future in it. That's another denial of Matt's, because I think he knows the physical reality. I think he knows physics, enough physics to know that this life, will not escape this piece of the universe. It will get consumed in this galaxy by the sun, if not some other cosmic calamity. And all that will be eradicated permanently and completely. The complexity will leave behind no fingerprint, no treasure map, nothing, no footsteps in the sand to follow. It will just be gone, forgotten, erased, eliminated entirely, beyond the fact that it did happen, and it was insanely expensive. Yeah, so I show up at the right time and the car's not here. I have to work on the car. Always something with these people. Always changing the rules. People. Anyway, I'm just griping. That's what I do. Gripe. Somebody took down a lamppost I was going to fix. I can't fix it. They took it down. That makes it a lot harder to fix when it's removed. Anyway, until next time. These people just ain't on the same page and such.